Alright YouTube, what's going on? I'm actually going to make this video because of my guy Miguel. Shout out to Miguel, you gave me this idea, or rather you inspired me to go ahead and make this video. I get asked so many times, I look so young, everybody mentions it of course. Everybody asks me why real estate, why did I join real estate? I've heard it questioned a million times, and I really haven't ever really shared the full story, and it kind of ties into a lot of things, so stay tuned and you're going to find out why. Real estate, let's take it back to 2007, 2008, 2009, maybe even 2010, somewhere around those lines, maybe even after that. My parents were the type of people that loved to go look at homes on the weekends and things like that. This was back when homes had info boxes below it with take a flyer, you know, take it, and you know, I had the pictures and the info on it because, you know, you really didn't want to have to take all the time to schedule it or see it, or at least we never did that, so I didn't know about it. And the internet really wasn't a huge big thing yet, where people were putting out videos and content on the daily and things like that. You know, over time it's become more of a normal thing, and I just remember always doing that. And it's funny that I actually really hated doing that because I felt like we were wasting time. I would have rather been playing video games or things like that. I would have just rather been with my cousins or playing with my friends or anything like that. There is one thing though that I did like about it, and that was when we would see the really cool homes and we would take the chance to just go view the really expensive ones, or the ones that were really high end, or the ones that just had something cool about them. That was the one part that I did enjoy. I enjoyed the architecture. Nobody could ever take that. Yeah, I really love the architecture, and I'm sure a lot of us know, a lot of the younger audience will know that maybe watched MTV. There was a show, MTV Cribs. That was my thing, man. Like, I really loved to watch MTV Cribs. I love seeing all the cool homes, like the home theaters, everything like that. It just made me think like, wow, I need to have a home like that. I'm gonna be balling out. I want to be young and do that. I don't want to be old and not have any money or anything like that. I always pictured myself as young and having money and having cool cars and a cool crib with a pool, a theater, a badass garage, all of those cool things, and you know, just living a lavish lifestyle, maybe on the beach or in the mountains somewhere cool. So that all kind of played in. Now let me remind you, let me give you some background on me. You see, me, I'm naturally an artist. Anybody asks me what I am or what I do, I'm an artist first and foremost. I'm an artist at life. Right now my role is as a real estate agent, the greatest one in San Antonio, and that's walked this earth. Now, you know, when it comes to real estate, I was in high school. I went to a medical high school. My parents kind of were leaning towards, you know, me going the doctor route or anything like that, and I'd advise anybody who wants to be a doctor, do it, go for it, follow your dreams, follow your passion, whatever you think you want to do, go ahead and do it, stick with it, and just, you know, grind it out. Now the thing is, I was never passionate about the medical industry. It just wasn't my thing. My sister went to this high school, it was a magnet school, it was the #1 in my city, in San Antonio, and they just thought, hey, go there, you know, you'll get into a good college and you'll live a good life, which maybe so, but it just wasn't my passion. It's just one thing that I've never been about, is doing things that I don't like to do, and that was one of them. Now I'm grateful for the experience because it did teach me a lot. I got to meet some great people. I have great connections now that I'm forever thankful for, yet it just wasn't my forte, the medical industry. I mean, my stomach can hardly handle some blood and things like that. It just wasn't my style. And then come high school, you know, I've always been an artist. Like I said, I love music. I've always been expressive with my clothes. I mean, as you can see now, fashion is just something that just comes naturally to me. People have always complimented me in those regards, and thank you for everybody who likes my style and you know, daps me up and gives me credits to that, because I mean, that's just something that I naturally like to do. And so in high school, what I had done is I'd always imagined having my own brand, and I remember seeing somebody else in the city that had a brand, and it kind of kick-started, you know, I had always had the idea of having my own brand, and I knew I would do it, have my own merchandise or anything like that. I knew I would do it. And I saw one from the city, and then finally I was like, oh wow, you know what, it's a thing. My father actually does screen printing and embroidery. Why don't I just go ahead and do it? So I started my first clothing line. It was called Abominations Apparel, and I'll put some pictures up here in a second so you guys can see it. I started that, I think, my freshman year of high school, and yeah, I sold it to a lot of my friends and things like that. I mean, I was churning out designs left and right. I was just known as the guy who had merchandise and t-shirts and cool stuff like that. It was a really cool experience. And yet I just remember down the lines too, you know, as I progressed in high school, I got rid of the abominations. I just wasn't really feeling it anymore. But I still was into design and fashion, and I wanted to be known for being like the freshest dressed or the best dressed or anything. I told myself that I would win best dressed in high school, and I actually ended up winning best dressed and actually best hair. Shout out to my high school. But it ended up changing into Southern Indigo. And the thing is, behind Southern Indigo, it's a Texas thing. The blue bonnets, they're really an indigo color. I've always noticed them every spring. It's just something that, you know, it reminds me of something of my aura, I guess you could say, my essence. And that's where that came from. So I'm an artist in design. Remember, this is all coming from a design aspect. And so I did that. I sold t-shirts. I expanded to different high schools. I mean, I had kids wearing my shirts from the north side to the south side to the west side to the east side, everywhere. I mean, it was everywhere. It was really cool when I would go out in public and I'd run into somebody that I just had never met in my life and saw them wearing my clothes. It was just surreal. And then later on down the line, of course, you know, I was into fashion. I had, you know, these big aspirations. I wanted money. I wanted things. I wanted to go travel. I wanted to do things that average people didn't, you know, and, you know, buy the cool clothes, but that came with a price. And the job that I was working at the Hyatt. Shout out to the Hyatt, because that was a really fun job, but I was making $9 an hour. It was measly. No offense to anybody who's working that. If you're working that, keep going. You know, if that's what you're passionate about, keep doing it. Yet if that's just where you're starting out, remember, it's just a starting point. It doesn't mean anything. But shout out to the Hyatt. They were a great corporation, and I loved working there, but it just wasn't getting me where I needed to get there fast enough. I started working at Urban Outfitters in the midst of getting my real estate license. And remember, so I decided to get my real estate license during high school. I told myself, you know what, you got to be 18 to have your real estate license. I'll go ahead and do that. I just remember thinking, or asking my parents, like, how much do those people make? And they said, well, they make quite a bit. Once you sell a house, you make like 10 grand. I remember thinking like, oh shoot, if you sell any home, you get $10,000. Dude, I'll go out and I'll sell 10 each month. People will love to buy a home from me because I look cool and I dress cool, and I'll be picking out the coolest homes. And yet I was wrong, and I'll get into that in another video. We'll have my first year in real estate. That'll be a different topic. This video I wanted to focus on why I chose real estate. Remember, like I said, I'm an artist, and truthfully too, I never was really fond of having a boss. I always pictured myself as my own boss. I'm a leader. That's just always how I pictured myself. I mean, I had my own company essentially with the clothing line that I had and things like that. So that's what I continued forward with. And, you know, even that, it was kind of hard to supply the shirts and keep doing it. So I thought, what could really make me some money to be able to do that, do music, or help my friends and do all of this cool artistic and creative stuff that we do. That's what we are. My friends we're a ton of artists. And yet I thought, you know what, real estate, I'll get my license and I'll do that. And just remember, this was in high school and I was thinking this. So I graduate high school, I turn 18, I go through a pretty weird experience. I guess I kind of snap out of some things. I go through like an existential crisis, I guess you could say, like, for real. And then, you know, if you haven't had one of those, you need to have it, so that way you can figure out where you really need to go. And I advise everybody to go out and really ask yourself some deep questions, because that's what I did. And that led me to starting to get my license back in December of 2017. I started my classes. I mean, I had my license in March. I chose real estate because I knew that it would make me the money to buy the cool clothes, keep going with my clothing line, make money, you know, invest, like become wealthy, and, you know, generate wealth and things like that. And I'd always imagined myself, I never put a cap on myself, so I'm not always going to be a real estate agent. I'll always have my teams and what I grow and what I build. And yet I knew that you could have that while still stepping away, and you could still make money. That's what enticed me about it too. You could create your own schedule, your own set hours. You were your own boss, essentially. That was part of the reason I chose it. And real estate was kind of artsy. I mean, I thought, like, you take cool pictures, you find cool properties, you market things. I mean, that's just something that I was already accustomed to doing with my clothing line. So it just made sense all across the board. And remember, MTV Cribs is one of my biggest inspirations. I even wanted to start my own MTV Cribs just because they discontinued it, and I still will. Be on the lookout for that coming in the future. So that's really kind of where all the real estate came about. I'm an artist. I mean, I had my clothing line. I needed money to support that. I had expensive taste in clothing, and I wanted to be able to afford it. I wanted my own hours. I didn't want to have to listen to anybody telling me what to do. It's just not my style, my forte. And remember, the medical route just wasn't my thing. And, you know, getting into a big college and doing all of that just never really was on my agenda per se. I mean, you don't need a college education to make a lot of money in this world or do great things. If anybody tells you you need it, they're lying to you. And that's really where the whole real estate aspect came in. And I plan on being a home designer later on down the line. So what better way to learn about homes and see the process and, you know, get really good ideas and selling them. So that is what led me to choose real estate. I am an artist, and real estate is just another way for me to express my art. Hence Indigo Global Group. That's why I created it. I wanted to stay and remain true to my passions and what I'm about and who I am. I never wanted to come into this industry and be fake. This was a career that would let me do that. It allowed me to do and be me and be my own business. So that is why I chose real estate for right now as my intro to, I guess you could say, the real world, or the grown man world of work, I guess you could say. So there you have it. That's my story about real estate. A lot of people didn't know that, and now you know. Now you know why I chose real estate.